Welcome to the Influence and Inspire podcast, episode 14. I'm delighted to say my guest today is Daniella Blechner, founder of Conscious Dreams Publishing. Hello, Daniella.
Hello, how are you doing, Ryan?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you doing?
Excellent. I'm good, thank you. I'm very good.
Good. Okay. Daniella, so you're the founder of Conscious Dreams Publishing, which is a publishing company,
Yep.
but you're also a best-selling author.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So when did you realize that writing was something that you were good at and something you could make a career out of?
Okay, interesting question. I think I realised I was good at writing from a very, very young age. I always loved books. I remember at age 4, I used to write poems like "The Cat Sat on the Mat,"
Mm-hmm.
and 6, 7, 8, sort of progressing. Loved poetry.
Yeah.
The first book I wrote was at 8 years old, called "All the Happy Animals." So I created my own book out of, I don't know if you remember, but old computer paper, the old kind of green and white lines that go across.
Yes. I do.
Yeah, you remember that.
Yeah.
So, and then I wrote my own barcode at the back. So I always loved writing. It's something I always just did. And I remember being asked by various teachers at a young age, so what do you want to do when you're older? And at the time I had no knowledge of kind of ages or retirement age, but I remember saying, I'm going to be an author when I retire at 40. So I just imagined having a life just sitting at home writing all day.
Yeah.
And but actually the reality was I actually wrote 3 books before my 35th birthday. And I hope to never retire from it because it's something I absolutely love. And I think in terms of making a career out of it, it wasn't until, I don't know. I actually don't know. Probably when I wrote my first book in 2014, but it's something that I've always had in my heart to want to do as a passion and as a career in a sense. But I guess I wasn't really thinking about it as a career until I published my first book in 2014.
Yeah. And not everyone can make their passion their career, so well done on that.
That's right. Well, they can if they put their mind to it and work towards it.
Yes. You're right. And you can help them, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So one of the first times the public really had a chance to appreciate your writing was when you wrote a comedy sketch for the youth project Phenomenon, which featured Gina, Yashere and Richard Blackwood. So what was it like working with those two comedians?
Wow, we're going back. That was in 1998. So I used to go to college. I had to go to college 3 times. I dropped out. I got excluded the first time, then I dropped out. I think I dropped out the first time, then I got excluded the second time, and the third time I was like, yes, I did it. But the reason for that was that the second time is in 1998. I just found it a difficult period of my life. But what I loved about the college was that an outside party came in and worked with a group of us, creatives who wanted to put together a show. And so I wrote and stage managed the show from Phenomenon 98. So there was like a fashion show in there. We had dances. I wrote the comedy sketch based on a family. It was Julia Yashere was the mother, Richard Blackwood was the father, and then there were the siblings. The siblings wanted very creative jobs, and the parents were, very strict, old school. Like, what do you want to be an actor for? What do you want to be a singer for? You got to get, be a doctor or a lawyer. I didn't have a lot of chance to work with them because they came at the, for the performance, but they were just when we met them. They did their own comedy sketch in between, and they had a few lines, so it wasn't a lot for them to remember. But when we met them, they were very forthcoming, very friendly, lovely to speak to. So it was a great experience. I think from there, I realised that this is something that I absolutely love, and seeing people in the audience actually responding to something that has come from your mind and is now there, present in the vision, for people to see and experience and enjoy, was where I thought, this is great. But sadly, shortly after that, because I put all my effort into, being at home, writing the play for it, rehearsing, attended every single rehearsal. But shortly after that, I was then called in by the head and said, look, we need to let you go because you just have not been attending any sessions. And it was a real shock for me because, it was a great lesson, but it was a real shock in the sense that there was no real, and I'm coming from a teaching background, you do everything to keep your students, you give them prior warning, you speak to them, but there was no dialogue or communication. It was just suddenly one day, bye-bye.
That's not
so when
nice.
So when I think about that college, that's what I think about. I think about that play and what we achieved that day, and put on and how much effort we did. And that's where my passion is, and that's where my love is.
So, and the comedy sketch part of it, was that just an add-on, or is that something you particularly enjoy doing?
Is it an add-on?
Was it an
I think,
add-on to the play, or is it something that you like to do anyway? The comedy side of it, I mean.
yeah, comedy. I see the comedy in everything. I can see the comedy in the worst situations, sometimes, being in them. That's what Mr. Wrong is all about, in a sense. Is a
Yeah.
very deep level of it. We look at belief systems, but it's about looking at our situation that we're in and being able to see the light-hearted humour within it, no matter what it is that we're going through. So I've always used humour to get through difficult situations. So that's something that is reflected in my writing, I would say, most definitely. I think, laughter is the river that runs through everything. If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. You mentioned Mr. Wrong, which is your best-selling book. So can you tell us a bit more about this book? And first of all, what inspired you to write it?
Okay, so what inspired me to write it, first of all, was the fact that, I came to a point in my life where I had to make a confession to myself and to others, and said, look, my name is Daniella Blechner. I have experienced a decade of dating disasters, and that was very freeing, because not anymore, though. I found my Mr. Right, I'm fine.
Oh, good.
But what happened was that during my sort of dating life, I kept finding myself replacing Peter with Paul, so to speak. So I was attracted to the same sort of character. It's like, why is this not moving? Why is this not going anywhere? What's happening here? And I remember my friend saying, Dan, how are you meeting these people? It's only you that meet these crazy people. What's happening? And they said, if you meet one more, you've got to write a book. I met one more. And but the difference was, I was really able to be objective about the situation, and actually write from an empowered place rather than a bitter place of, why is this happening? And I realised that I'm not the only woman to experience this or to attract the same sort of situation. What do I want to do? I believe if you attract the same sort of man, the same sort of circumstance, the same sort of situation, same sort of person into your life, then the journey has to start within. And so I was passionate about creating something that gave women a space to share their stories in, a place of love, a place of no judgment, and to laugh at our stories and our choices, but also to self-discover as well. Because I find there's a lot of these books, as women, relationship books that tell us, how to be, what to say, how to behave, how to play games even in order to get a man, but nothing that tells you how to love yourself first, how to learn from your mistakes, how to question your belief systems, how to trace back your relationships and find patterns and try and break those patterns, to go deep into it. Nothing that teaches you about the power of forgiveness, the power of intention setting. It's basically a collection of stories written by women all across the world who've encountered this infamous Mr. Wrong character. And there's exercises at the end of each chapter as well. And the second half is about discovering within. But you've got all these different types of characters, and each chapter is underneath all of those characters. So you've got funny dating disaster stories, but also some really powerful and poignant stories of overcoming abuse or toxic relationships. And I just wanted to create something that opened up a dialogue without shame or embarrassment, or something's gone wrong but we can't talk about it. It's like, well, let's explore it, let's learn from it, let's be greater people, and start attracting the things that we want and deserve in our life in a place of non-judgment, and be empowered by the choices that we make. And so that's what Mr. Wrong's really about, and there's a lot of humor in there as well.
No, that sounds good. It sounds like an empowering book, for definite.
Thank you.
Conscious Dreams Publishing was set up to assist authors through the self-publishing process and help create and publish and market professional books. What made you decide to set up a publishing company?
What made me decide to set it up? I think it was publishing Mr. Wrong in 2014. My journey was, I thought, okay, let me go the traditional publishing route. I read one of these books, Get Published by Harry Bingham. And the first thing was write a query letter. I wrote the query letter, sent it off to agents, waited for 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long it is. And as I was waiting, I stopped writing. And then, all the letters came in and they said, this is great. You've got great writing ability. We love what you're doing. However, we're looking for someone more established, or, whatever the reason is. I then thought, well, I'm going to go for the big wigs and do what they tell you not to do, and that's to, contact all the kind of the big five, HarperCollins, Random House, as an unsolicited author, and send them, some chapters of my book. And, all that, those rejection letters came in. And I realized at that point that actually I wasn't waiting for a reply. I was actually waiting for validation, someone to tell me that my story matters, my voice matters. And I knew that I had to get this book out because I had women's stories from all over the world, and I had to honor those. And I really believed what I was doing. And then on the other hand, I approached self-publishing companies, and there's a lot out there that will just accept your manuscript without having read it and charge you thousands of pounds to literally just publish it, and that's it. And that to me lacked integrity and honor. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to learn this process. I'm going to do every single thing myself. What's an ISBN? How do I market my book? How do I make it available to retailers? And so I set up my own publishing company and published my book. And then once it was out, it did really well. I was asleep, and I think my mentor had told me, "Oh, did you know you're on the best-selling list?" I was like, "Really? Oh my gosh, wow!" But from there, I had a lot of women. Oh, then I sort of created my own press, sent it off, because I thought, I've got this book now, I've got this baby, I can't just leave it. I need to do something with it, and it did really well in the press as well. Knowing what I know now, I think I could have done a lot more. But as a first-time author, I was really empowered by knowing and seeing and experiencing how much you can do yourself. And I had a lot of come to me at that stage wanting to learn the process and wanting assistance, and I was doing all of this out of the kindness of my heart. I connected them with editors, typesetters, people that I had worked with and know and trust, and then I guided them through the self-publishing process. And I realized, and my first mentee, she's awesome, her book became a bestseller as well. And I realized there's something in this. I'm doing what I love. I'm mentoring, I'm teaching, and it's all about writing and sharing your story. I love this. How can I turn this into a business? And, whilst doing something that I'm passionate about. And that's really how Conscious Dreams Publishing was born. And so we've published 25 books.
Yes, 25 books and 8 bestsellers.
Yes, that's right. You do your research, Ryan. I love it.
So, Daniella, what type of books does Conscious Dreams Publishing publish? Do they publish all types of books, or is it a specific type? Or
it's not all type of books. It's mainly women. It's a very women-centered company. We do publish books for men, but the main criteria is we're looking for books that educate, inspire, and empower, that are healing in some way, entertaining. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs who want to publish books to leverage their business. So we have a lot of life coaches, transformational coaches, also women who have, it's very much women who've got powerful messages and stories to share with the world. We've published quite a couple of children's fiction books at the moment as well. Funnily enough, we've got 3 authors who want to publish a trilogy, 2 of which have been published based on their own children. And it's, that was amazing. We've got one, Henrietta, her first book, Clever Carmel, it's based on her child, mixed race child. So Henrietta's Nigerian and her partner is from Manchester, England. And not Henrietta, her daughter Carmel is asked to wear a football T-shirt that represents her country. And being mixed race, she didn't know which one to choose, so she takes matters into her own hands and creates her own football T-shirt. And it's all about embracing and celebrating both sides, both cultures. Another author, Rebecca Morgan, has published a book called Mummy, I Love Your Hair, all about her daughter, embracing her natural hair. A child of Caribbean descent, embracing her natural hair. And it's all about, putting us on a map, in a sense, getting these unheard, unseen stories out there, and publishing books that represent the underrepresented in a positive light, knowing that we can be the protagonists of our own life, and just celebrating self-worth and identity. So we've got those books. We've got the powerful messages and stories. We've got the books that are based on identity and self-worth. We've got books written by divorce recovery coaches, a child psychologist, transformational coach. So those and some poetry books coming out as well. So those are the types of books we publish.
Okay, and your company is aimed at supporting women as opposed to men. You've said some of the reasons why, but is there any particular reason why you publish mainly women?
I would say as opposed to men, but I would say my I haven't seen a company that is very sort of women centered, and I think that we're stepping into an era right now where women are stepping into their own.
Mm-hmm.
We're claiming ourselves a lot more.
Yeah.
Our voices have been underrepresented, and I'm just passionate about, getting our stories and our messages out there. We have published some male authors. There's
Mm-hmm.
Paul Lawrence, who published his book 101 Lessons I Taught My Son.
All
We
right.
also guide people through the self-publishing process who want to actually publish under their own name or their own brand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's just that Conscious Dreams mainly, if you're publishing under our name, it's mainly books that are sort of women centered.
Yeah.
We've also published another book by a young man called Amos Pinnock, whose book it's a poetry book called Words for My Heart, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about embracing himself as a man, but also, how men are told big boys don't
Oh
cry
yeah.
and man up and all
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this is about him embracing himself and saying, you know what, these are my feelings, and being vulnerable about that and showing that there's great strength and vulnerability. And I thought that was a powerful message
Yeah.
to share.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, we're not anti-men or
No. No.
anything
No.
like that, but it's just that, that really is my passion.
No. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You also run workshops for aspiring female authors
Yes.
called The Power of Your Story.
Yeah.
What do these workshops consist of?
These are 6-week workshops,
Mm-hmm.
but you can attend individual sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I've got a teaching background. So each session is based on a different aspect of the self-publishing process. So I've got, guides called the Book Journey Mentor's Guide to Self-Publishing and a
Mm-hmm.
workbook. So the first session is all about finding your why, really getting clear on your message and your market, your audience. And without those three things, the rest of it is a struggle. So it's about getting that vision. What do you want your book to do for you? What is your message? What do you
Mm-hmm.
want to do beyond the book? How are you going to use the book to leverage what it is that you're doing and get your message out there? The second session, we have a guest speaker called Wendy York, who is one of our editors. She's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
She's a freelance editor, and she will be speaking about how to write, edit, and structure your book. You've got another session that's going to be run by a PR expert, all about how to get your book in the press. We've got another session run by my very first mentee, who is the UK #1 female live streamer, Janine
Okay.
Cummings. And she's running a workshop on how to use live streaming to elevate your book. And a lot of the women who attend the sessions have never live streamed before.
Yeah.
And so or they haven't got the confidence. So it's a great practical workshop to get them confident, expressing their message and actually going live on her platform. She's got quite a big platform, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a session from my partner, who is a business mentor, and he helps the women to set clear goals and objectives
Mm-hmm.
over the next 90 days, for their book. So
Yeah.
it could be to finish writing the book, it could be to get a marketing plan together, or to, have published your book, or to plan the book launch. It depends where they are in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the 6 weeks, there's 1 week where it's all about the vision, and we create vision boards as well. At the end of the 6 weeks, with the goals and objectives they set, I offer a free 90-day accountability package. And the reason for that is so many people attend these workshops,
Mm-hmm.
1 day workshop or however long it is, and
Yeah.
they're really inspired and fired up. But, at the end of it, they go home and they're just sort of left by themselves going,
Yeah.
was good, don't know what to do. So they're paired up with a woman, they start forgetting.
Yeah.
So they're paired up with another woman. We have a call at the beginning of the 90 days. I check in each week. Yes, I do. And then we have a call at the end of the 90 days to see how, each lady's got on with their objectives and accountability partner. And one of the ladies who attended the workshop in April has now gone on to, I've been mentoring her from that after the workshop, and she received her first proof copy about 2 weeks ago, and her book is coming out in November. So she's done really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about keeping on track with your book journey and learning the process, but continuing it after the workshop. So that's the power of your story in a lovely location as well.
Okay. Okay. Also, you also run workshops for young women well, they're called empowerment workshops for young
Yeah.
women and girls, and you actually visit some schools, do you?
Yes. It's called 7 Steps to Creating the Greatest Version of You.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long name. I might change it to 7 Steps to the Greatest You.
Yeah.
So I used to run this with women, but at the moment I'm going into schools and colleges because I really believe that young girls really need something to hold on to that's
Mm-hmm.
positive,
Yeah.
something that celebrates them. So it's all about, because a lot of young girls are getting into relationships that aren't good for them,
Mm-hmm.
or their worth and value. Some of them don't even know what I mean when I'm talking about worth and value.
Yeah. Yeah.
First session is all about, what are your values? What are values? How do you demonstrate in your everyday life? How can you be more mindful of your values? How can you really just monitor yourself? So there's lots of different things. There's a session based on the power of forgiveness, where they write a letter to somebody that they want to forgive. We create vision boards. We work on the power of speech, how words become things. So we set affirmations. We have lots of things come out of the session, lots of interesting discussions and talking points. So each week is 7 weeks. Each week is based on a different step, and it's been really powerful so far. I've worked with some amazing young girls, and lots come from it, most definitely. And I think it's so important because we're not taught. And I think this, I'd love, to do a male version of this as well, because I think it's important for young girls and boys.
Yeah, it's definitely needed.
What we've been fed by the media, and I'm still trying to convince my partner to do it. But without getting political here, but the images and the stereotypes and the messages that we're being fed by the media are not positive. They're not.
No.
And we've got our young people growing up thinking that this is how I need to be. This is what a man's supposed to be. This is what a girl. This is what I need to do in order to get validation. This is what this is how I need to treat my body. And I think there's not enough education done. I'm speaking from an English teacher's point of view, but there's not enough done in schools to really help them to understand their value and their worth. That extends beyond education in terms of academia.
No, that sounds like a wonderful workshop. And have you found that schools are accepting of your workshop? Do they like your workshop? Are they welcoming?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to get into schools, and I'm talking from the point of a teacher. You're getting past the red tape first of all, then waiting for the emails to be answered. I know how busy they are in schools. I understand it. I get it. The schools I have been in have been amazing. Evelyn Grace Academy. Unfortunately, the head's left. He's fantastic. Devin Hansen. Big hats off to him. I've never met a head who actually cares so much about his students. He embraced it straight away. So this is brilliant. This needs to be in all schools, and he fully supported it. And I'm hoping I can go back there again. No pressure, Evelyn Grace. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm still pushing through those workshops as well.
Okay. So someone asked me the other day, randomly, what makes a best-selling book? And I thought, well, I'll be interviewing Daniella soon, so I'll answer.
Interesting question.
Yes, what makes a best-selling book?
Well, I don't know how much you know, but you might see...
Not a lot, actually.
Okay. You may see these things floating about, how to be a best-selling author and hacks and tricks and tips. And yes, there are strategies. But I always say, integrity, number one. The first thing is write a damn good book, because you can do all your hacks and tricks or whatever, get that number one best-selling book or whatever it is, and people are like, this is rubbish. Just because you've had lots of people buy it doesn't make it an amazing book. It's how it's promoted and marketed, isn't it? And they're not going to then buy into anything else that you do. So build your reputation. Make sure your book is edited professionally. Make sure it's laid out beautifully. Create a book of worth and value and that offers something of significance to people. Write with your reader in mind. So that's the first thing. Write a really good book first of all. The second one is, yes, there are little things you can do. There are lots of strategies you can do. There's a lot of people who do the whole, on the day of publish, and we do this as well. I'll just give it away. I'll give it away for free on your podcast. They do a promotional deal on their book
Yeah.
on a particular day, because what a lot of people don't know is that on Amazon, anyway, the best selling, and I didn't know any of this when I published my book, it was only after I was like, oh wow. It's depending on what category you're in, the way that you can climb up in that particular category, so I'm not talking about bestseller overall, is if you shift enough books in that particular category and you shift more than the other books in that category at a particular time, you have more opportunity to climb up that ladder. So it's possible for people to be best-selling authors for like a few hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, in terms of, when I say bestseller, and certainly for the authors that we publish, we are, you have to be at that best-selling point, top 10. I guess it's, people to be on the bestseller list is actually top 100, but we really just say the top 10 for a significant period of time, more than 24 hours.
More than 24 hours.
Yeah. And I'll probably just burst a lot of people's bubbles. But that's how it is. If you are in, let's say, a category that, let's say, something that's really niche, fishing in Brighton.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just exists, wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Fishing in Brighton. You're not going to have many books, and you're not going to have a huge amount of people buying from that category. I don't imagine, as you would for general fiction or love and relationships or something like that. So you could sell very few books and find yourself climb up the ladder very quickly because your book is shifting quicker than the others in that category. So that's something there. I've probably ruined it for those people now.
No, you've given us some good nuggets of knowledge and some tricks of the trade, so thank you. So Daniella, what's on the horizon for yourself and your business over the coming months and years?
Okay, what's on the horizon? So we've got the Power of Your Story workshop starting again on Saturday, the 4th of November, up until the Saturday, the 9th of December. The website, if anyone wants to check that out, is www.tinyyurl.com/yourstorydb. In terms of what the bigger vision is, what I would love to do, not tomorrow, but the vision, which is later on in Conscious Dreams Publishing's life, is to have a global conference of women all over the world. I want to speak to that woman in India who's overcome issues that are relevant to her culture, but also have the same. You can go through certain things in your life. A woman in Japan can relate to how a woman in Sierra Leone feels. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is, because that underlying belief system could be you felt that loss or grief or abandonment, depending on what the circumstance was. But I want these women all around the world to have a global conference and to publish women from all over the world and get their stories out there, and to have a global conference where they share their stories. I'd love to have an award ceremony, a Conscious Dreams Publishing award ceremony as well. And get more books into physical, stock them in physical retailers. So that's the bigger plan for Conscious Dreams, and just to grow bigger and better and stronger, to meet more women with powerful stories, and that's really it.
Sounds good to me. And if any of the listeners are interested in one of your self-publishing courses or another course, what's the best way to get in touch with you, or are they available online?
Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is drop me an email at info@consciousdreamspublishing.com. That's CONSCIOUS dreamspublishing.com. My website is www.consciousdreamspublishing.com as well. The contact details are there. If you want to check out more information about the Power of Your Story workshop or reserve your spot, early bird tickets run out on the 30th of September. So just hop over to www.tinyyurl.com/yourstorydb.
Excellent. And I will have all these links on my show notes so people can pick them up if they miss them. And
Amazing.
yeah, I just want to say the workshop sounds wonderful. It's just a shame that I'm a male and I can't attend.
Oh, well, I
But
am going to be doing a conference for everybody in January, so just
okay,
stay tuned and
well,
I'll let you know.
well, let me know.
Are you
Daniel,
writing a book, Ryan? Have you thought about writing?
no, I haven't actually. I haven't thought about writing a book. I thought
Oh,
about
well, I was gonna put on a workshop just for you.
no, no. I thought about writing a script at one point, but then I didn't. So, but who knows what can happen in the future? Who knows?
Exactly. Never know. Never know.
Daniela, it's been wonderful speaking to you today. And as I said, all your stuff, your work, the work you're doing sounds excellent, and it sounds very interesting. So I'm hoping some of the listeners will contact you, especially those budding new writers that are out there who've always thought, oh, it'd be good to write a book. I think they should definitely contact you
Thank
and start with you. So thanks
I
for your time
appreciate it.
today,
Thank you.
and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. You
All right,
take care.
all right,
Thank you.
thanks.